Okay, so I'm going to work through the second word exercise, just like we did in our class, and provide you with a video that shows me completing the entire file. We're going to take this document, which is WO2 data, and it doesn't contain any interesting formatting, the default page size, default line spacing, default paragraph spacing, default margins. And so it's a default document that has text in it with no formatting whatsoever. The only difference that you would have typing into Office 365, type in text into Office 365 like this, is that your font would be different. This file was created in an earlier version of Microsoft Office, and so the font is set as Calibri and not Aptos. But otherwise, there's no formatting in here whatsoever. We have a single page of just text, and we're going to turn it into something that looks like a medical journal, medical report. And so we're going to introduce some content to the document, a couple of lines of text. This is our answer key. This is what the document will look like when we're done. We're going to take a single page of text and turn it into this 4-page document. We're going to type this content at the very beginning on the first page. We're going to type the author's name into the header and then include a page number field. You can see that the page number field is present on all 4 pages, and this sends exactly the way that it should. We're going to format the text. That's one of the first things that we're going to do, to have effectively double line spacing. We're going to remove the actual paragraph spacing, and in order to allow the reader to know that you've started a new paragraph, we're going to indent the first line of each new paragraph in the document so that you still get a visual indicator that shows you where new paragraphs begin. You'll see that there's footnotes in it's not actually in the footer, but at the very bottom of the first 2 pages. Each of these 2 pages has a footnote that pertains to some text in the document. This one's linked up here. You might also be able to spot that there are citations, in-text citations in this file. Just 2 of them, 2 footnotes, 2 citations. And we've got the file name document property information field in the footer. And then the only other piece of information that we've got that was introduced was the bibliography at the end of the document on page 4. And that's it. So simple document. It's not going to be too complicated to produce. We're going to adhere to MLA style citations and document formatting as explained in the instructions. And so let's get underway. The instructions say that we should turn formatting marks on, and so just ensure that in the Home tab, Show Hide is turned on. And then we're going to either use Control-A to select all of the text in the document, or triple-click to the left of the document, to the left of the text in the margin space to select everything on this page. We're going to change the line spacing to a value of 2 by using the multiple setting. It wouldn't make a difference if we actually just used the double line spacing option, because they're exactly the same. From the Home tab in the paragraph group, we're going to expand the paragraph dialog box menu, and we're going to change the line spacing setting in the bottom right hand corner of this menu to a value of 2. It was already set to multiple because the default line spacing in a new document is 1.08, which is more than 1, and so Word classes that as multiple. So we're just going to change the value to 2. That's the value that we're given in the instructions. We're also going to change the paragraph spacing, which you can see between each of these paragraphs. It's almost like there's a blank line inserted between them to space them out, but there isn't. That space is this 8 points of after spacing at the paragraph level. And so we're going to clear this, and we're going to say no after spacing. Going to get rid of it. You don't need to type the PT. It'll accept the value of 0. And we're going to remove it, which is going to push the lines of text closer together. So it's going to be less obvious, especially between paragraphs like this, where the last line almost extends all the way across the page. It's going to be very difficult to see where one paragraph begins, where one paragraph ends and another one starts. But that's okay. We're going to make another edition. In a little while, we're going to select most of the content in our document, and honestly, it's a setting that we could do now, but we won't. I won't deviate from the instructions. But we're going to apply first line indent to new paragraphs eventually, and then that will make it more obvious that a new paragraph has started. So we'll click OK to accept those settings, no paragraph spacing and line spacing of a value of 2. Then we're going to move back to the top of the document. So I'm going to use Control-Arm to move the insertion point to before the word discrepancies. And we are going to type a blank line. We're going to hit Enter to introduce a blank line. Then we're going to hit the up arrow to move back to that line so that we can type in it. And then we're going to type Sandra Reynolds, that's the author of this paper. Sandra Reynolds, and we're going to hit Enter. And then we're going to type the doctor that she was working with when this paper was written, and the studies were done. And that's Dr. Walter Penn, P-E-N-N. We're going to hit Enter. And then we're going to type Medical Research 401, which is either a building name or a department name. We're going to hit Enter, and then we're going to type the last line, which is quantitative technology and its effect on healthcare. Okay, so quantitative technology and its effect on healthcare, and then we're going to hit Enter. And then we're going to select the title that was just entered, quantitative technology and its effect on healthcare, and we're going to center it in the page using the text alignment tools in the paragraph group, the Home tab. And then at this point, I'm going to save this file. Let's call it answer the way it asks us in the instructions. I'm going to have to put an underscore in there because I've already got an answer key in that file, in that folder. Okay, so we're going to open up the header, and we're going to type the author's name, which is Reynolds, and then we're going to hit space just once. And then we're going to insert a page number field using the plain page number style. And we're going to ask it to insert that at the current position, which is the location of the insertion point right now, right here. And so in the header and footer tab, in the very left-hand group, which is the header and footer group, there's a page number drop-down menu. There's a current position submenu, and we're just going to pick plain number 1. It's going to insert that page number field into the header. I didn't mean to close the header. And then we need to align it to the right-hand side. So if you select this element, you can just use the text alignment tools in the paragraph group of the Home tab to just push both elements, the text that we entered and the page number field, to the right-hand corner of our document, right-hand side of the header. All right. I'm going to close the header, go back to our document, and we need to select all of the content in the document with the exception of the text that we typed. Also, oh, never mind. It was because I was hovering over one of these heading styles. I thought it had changed the formatting of this piece, but it hadn't. All right, so with the exception of those lines that we typed, we're going to select everything else in the document. So starting with the word discrepancies, you can either click and drag and then select everything all the way from the top of the document to the bottom of the document, or with your insertion point before the word discrepancies, you could do Control plus Shift plus the end key, END, to select everything from where the insertion point is to the end of the document. We are going to go back into the paragraph dialog box, and we're going to set that first line indentation in the special drop-down of the indentation group in the paragraph menu. Default tab stopping word is 1/2 inch. So the first line of every new paragraph is going to be indented by that amount, like this. So now we can see where one paragraph ends and a new paragraph begins. All right, then we're going to move back to the very top of the document. And in the footer, just like we added some content to our header, we're going to insert from the header and footer tab in the insert group, the document info drop-down menu, we're going to insert the file name field. This field will contain text, whatever you saved your file as will be the text that gets inserted into that field in the footer. We can leave it in the left-hand side of our footer. We'll close our footer. Don't think we need to insert anything else yet. We've got our page numbers in the header. Okay. So on page 1, make sure we're at the top of the document. I think that needs a space. On page 1, there are, let's see, 2 paragraphs, really. That's wrong. Something's happened here. How did that happen? All I did is select stuff in the footer. Let's make that normal size. No, okay. We should have 3 paragraphs on page 1. 3 paragraphs that start on page 1. So that's the content that we should have. I've still got the file name field in the footer. So this looks okay. First line indent is applied. Not sure what happened there. I must have hit something in the styles group. But on page 1, there's a paragraph at the bottom of the page that begins with the text given that approximately 30%. And so we're going to insert a footnote that expands and provides, it's not actually a citation, but I suppose it's information similar to a citation. It's where did this statistic come from? And so we need to locate this paragraph and then position the insertion point after the first sentence to the right of the word outputs. So that first sentence ends here with the word outputs. And so what we're going to do is we're going to position the insertion point following the period. So after the period, after that sentence is closed. And we're going to go to the References tab. And we're going to insert a footnote. There's an entire group of tools in the References tab dedicated to footnote functionality. There is an Insert Footnote button that we're going to press. And what you'll see that the little icon for the footnotes is some text AB with a superscript number 1. And so what happens is when you click it, you get a superscript number 1 at the insertion point. Whatever word you positioned it against will receive the superscript number 1 to the right of it. It inserts a line into the text layer. This isn't in the footer. We're not extending into the footer here. This is in the body of text in our document. It inserts a blank line to let you know that the text that follows after the line on this page is not a continuation of this paragraph. So you wouldn't read all the way down to where it says seamlessly record and analyze vital, and then continue reading the text after the line. The sentence continues on the next page. And so what's going to go in this blank line with a superscript number 1 that was entered after that line is going to be a footnote. So it's a separate ancillary piece of information that relates to something in this paragraph. It's going to relate to this first sentence, and it's going to be targeting this statistic that says approximately 30% of our American adults grapple with obesity. And so on this line, we're going to type the text for our footnote, and we're going to type, according to the American Heart Association, 1 in 3 children between the ages of 2 and 19 are overweight. According to the American Heart Association, comma space, 1 in 3 children between the ages of 2 and 19 are overweight. Like that. Include the period. So that says, according to the American Heart Association, 1 in 3 children between the ages of 2 and 19 are overweight. That's our first footnote that's been entered. Now you'll see that we've actually caused additional lines that were part of that paragraph that started, given that approximately 30% of American adults. Before we inserted the footnote, there were 5 lines of text on this page for that paragraph. We inserted the footnote line divider and the first line of text in the footnote, and that pushed a line of text, this line, to the next page. And then as soon as our footnote extended to 2 lines itself, it pushed a third line, or a second line rather, to the following page. So most of that paragraph, which did exist on page 1, has been pushed to page 2. So now the majority of that paragraph is on page 2 and not on page 1. And so it's important to recognize that the footnote is actually being inserted into the body of the document, into the text layer itself. It doesn't extend and won't extend into the footnote area. Instead, if you had more lines of text, or if you had more footnotes to insert for this page, it would take up more room in the text layer, and it would almost push backwards against the rest of the document, which would cause lines of text that would normally appear on page 1 to then get pushed to page 2 to allow for the footnotes to exist at the bottom of the page. So we're going to see that happen. We've just inserted our first footnote, which was at the end of the first sentence, to the right of the word output. So you can see the superscript number 1, the footnote is right here. We're going to insert another footnote, but the footnote is going to be linked to text that actually appears earlier in either, I think, the second or the first paragraph on page 1. So what's going to happen is, because this is our first page, and we're now going to insert another footnote, that if it was inserted below the first footnote, so below the word outputs, if it was further into the document, then the footnote would be inserted as footnote number 2. But because we're actually going to go and find a sentence that exists earlier in the document than the footnote that we've already inserted, the footnote that we've already inserted is going to get renumbered to number 2, because this will then be the second footnote that's encountered in the document, and the new footnote will be given the superscript number 1. So this is going to change to a 2, and then a number 1 will be inserted above in our document. What's going to happen is this footnote that we've already inserted is going to get it's going to look like it got pushed down. But instead, what's going to happen is a new line is going to be inserted almost above it, where we can type the new footnote information. And as soon as that line extends to 2 lines like this, as soon as it leaves a single line, it's going to push this line of text that you can see at the bottom of that paragraph on that page, is also going to get pushed to the top of the next page to make room for the footnote data. But the link that we've got for our footnote that we've already inserted exists on that last line. And so when that line gets pushed to the top of the next page, the footnote that we've inserted, which is going to be renumbered number 2, second footnote, is also going to move to the second page with it. So it should always be on the same page as the word that was tagged. And so what we're going to do is find on page 1 the paragraph that begins with this pursuit. So it's the previous paragraph. So this is what we're looking for, where the paragraph starts, this pursuit of proactive health management. And we're looking for the second sentence, the end of the second sentence to the right of the period following the word expenses. So the first sentence ends with the word improvement. The second sentence ends with the word expenses right here. So we want our insertion point to the right of the period following the word expenses. And obviously that then precedes the footnote that we've already inserted. And so this new one is going to be number 1. And then the one that we already inserted is going to be renumbered to number 2. I'm going to go to the References tab. I'm going to click Insert Footnote. You can see that the one that was just inserted to the right of the word expenses is now number 1. And the one that we inserted earlier to the right of the word outputs has been renumbered number 2. And we've now got a line that's been introduced that we can type the first footnote in. And it will allow it to be 1 line. If it takes up less than a single line, both of these footnotes can stay on the first page. As soon as it extends to a second line, this sentence, it's gonna push our footnote divider back up into the document. It's going to clash against this last line. This last line will then move to the top of page 2. And when that happens, the second footnote will also be moved with it. A little bit awkward. It really is best to work through this file yourself so that you can see this happen, so that you're not confused as to where the footnote has disappeared to and why it's now on page 2. This second footnote is going to read: wearable devices that transmit vital signs in user performance are estimated to become a $14 billion market by 2023. And so the text is about as long as our first footnote, which means it's going to extend to 2 lines, unless we made the font much smaller, but we're not going to do that. So wearable devices that transmit vital signs and user performance, can't spell the word performance, are estimated, can't spell the word estimated, to become a $14 billion market by 2023. You can see as soon as this extended to 2 lines, it pushed the original footnote that was renumbered number 2. It pushed that to the bottom of the second page, because the sentence that we linked it to, where it was inserted, happened to get pushed to the top of the next page. And so when that happened, the footnote moved with it. So that second footnote that we inserted, that's now been numbered as number 1, should read: wearable devices that transmit vital signs and user performance are estimated to become a $14 billion market by 2023. And so we've inserted the content for the footnotes. All we need to do now is format them. These footnotes have been inserted with a particular style applied to them. Obviously, they're just text. The body font that we've been editing is Calibri 11 point. The footnote font is set as Verdana, 10 points in size, but Verdana is a bigger font than Calibri physically. And so you can see that even at 10 points versus Calibri at 11 points, Verdana is still bigger, despite the fact that the point size for that font is smaller. And both of the footnotes were inserted with that font applied. And that's because footnotes have got their own styles. So the text that's in our document by default, before you start formatting your document, irrelevant as to what font is actually applied, is set as normal style. So you can see that normal style is currently selected. If I've put my insertion point in this text, or actually click on it to select it, you can see that normal style is applied. And so normal style can be set to whatever font you want, whatever font size you want, whatever font color you want. You could make this, you could customize it and then make it your new default font. And then every time you go new blank document, you could have purple font that's 14 points inside, that had bold turned on and was some sort of custom typeface. A style is just a collection of settings. So normal style is applied to this, like it is in all new blank documents. And then the footnote has its own style that is not normal style. So you can see that if I select or put my insertion point in this line of text, the normal style is not enabled. I don't think we can see the footnote style listed here. But in the back-end menus of Excel, there's a style that's formatted that applies to footnotes. And so we need to customize that. We're going to make a couple of minor changes to the way that the footnote text displays. One of the first things we're going to do is actually change the font size from 10 to 11. We're actually going to make the footnote text even bigger than it is. It's already bigger than the body text, but we're going to make it even bigger than it is now. And then we're going to apply a first line indent to the footnote the same way that we applied the first line indent to the paragraphs in our document. So the first line of the footnote here is going to start indented by 1/2 inch. And I think that's it. Oh no, we're also going to set the line spacing to double. So some content got pushed to the top of the next page, which means that we actually have a little bit of space, because the footnote could actually accept like 3 lines, but we had 2 footnotes which were 2 lines each. You can't have one of those lines on this page and then have it finish on the next page. So it's not going to split like a paragraph would. The entire footnote will stay together. It doesn't matter how many lines the footnote takes up. So because we couldn't have 3, we ended up with 2 lines being given to footnotes at the end of both pages 1 and 2. But because we couldn't have 4, content was pushed to the top of the next page when the footnote number 2, the first footnote that we entered, when that moved to page 2. So now we've got a couple of blank lines at the bottom of each of these pages. There's 1 here-ish, and then there's 2 here-ish. So we're actually going to use a little bit more of this space so it doesn't look quite so weird when we zoom out in our document, and we're actually going to increase the line spacing of the footnote to match the document. So we'll set it to double line spacing, and we'll give it a first line indent. Now we don't need to select the text of a footnote to modify it, to make changes to the visual style. You can use the tools in the font group if you want to format these one at a time. And we've only got 2 in this document, so it would not be the most tedious task. It's not going to take me too much effort to modify them one at a time. But if I had a document that was much bigger than this, 50 pages or so, and I had like a dozen or more footnotes, I don't want to go through a document and select and make modifications 12 times over. Instead, I'll modify the style that gets applied to the footnotes, and I'll modify it 1 time, and then as soon as I apply it, all of any footnotes that have been used in that document and any subsequent footnotes that are introduced will pick up the new style, pick up the modified style. So if you had a dozen footnotes in a document, you modify the style once and all 12 of them would update automatically once you make those changes. So we're going to modify the style. We're going to do that by, and it doesn't matter which footnote you right click, you can do it from either of them. They're both still going to get updated. We're going to right click within a footnote, and we're going to access the style menu. And then in this menu, you can see that I'm making a change to the style that's applied to all footnote text in Word. Verdana is currently set. It's 10 points in size with single line spacing and no after spacing, no paragraph spacing. And what we're going to do is we're going to hit this modify button, and we're going to say that we actually want it to be 11 points Verdana. So we're going to make it slightly bigger. And then you can indent within this menu, but if you click it, it's going to indent the entire paragraph. We want to access the first line indent option, and we also need the line spacing setting. And so to make sure we capture all of these modifications in a single go so that it updates the style, we need to navigate to the paragraph dialog box from the modify style menu. I can't click OK and then go and modify that separately. You can, but if new footnotes were introduced, they wouldn't pick up anything that you didn't capture while the style dialog box is open. And so you'd end up having to you still end up doing multiple steps. To navigate to the paragraph dialog box from here, I'm going to expand this format drop-down menu, and I'm going to say, take me to the paragraph dialog box. And in the paragraph dialog box, I'm going to set double line spacing for the footnotes, and I'm also going to set first line indent. We're not going to customize the value, only customize this if a question, say, in your MOS exam asks you to. And then we're going to click OK to accept those changes in the paragraph dialog box. Make sure this is 11 points in size. It's only going to apply to the style for footnote text. I'm going to click OK. You'll see that the style box then gets updated with the changes that you've made. So now it says the footnote style should be 11 points in size. It should have a first line indent of 1/2 inch, and the line spacing should be set to double. We'll click apply. You'll see that it's already separated the lines out to match the line spacing that was given to the body text in the document. That first line indent has been applied, and it's even bigger. Both of these fonts now are 11 points in size, but you wouldn't think it to look at them, because the Verdana text is already so much bigger. That change, those set of changes also applied to the second footnote, so that was updated automatically for us. If I had 100 footnotes in this document, all 100 footnotes would have just been updated to the exact same formatting by modifying that style. Once you get used to working with styles in documents, then you can start to work smart and not hard. Don't have to go through lots of repetition and tedious steps in order to make modifications to a large number of items in your document. You just need to make modifications to the styles and they'll all get updated. Okay, so we're going to add our citations. So we're going to go back to page 1. This first paragraph that begins with discrepancies often exist is the paragraph that we're going to look in to find the word time. There's actually 2. It ends in the first sentence here, and it also ends the first paragraph, the word time. And so the question says, position the insertion point at the end of this paragraph, so not the first sentence, to the left of the period, following the word time. So we put the footnotes after the period. We need to insert our first citation to the right of the word time here, but we're actually going to conform to MLA style formatting for citations. And so we're going to put the field inside the sentence before it ends, before the period. So between the E at the end of the word time and the period that ends that paragraph is where we need the insertion point to be. We're going to go to the References tab, and in the Citations and Bibliography group, I'm just going to make sure that MLA style formatting is listed, and then I'm going to say I want to insert a citation at this location. So I'm going to click Insert Citation, and I'm going to say I'm going to add a new source for this document. You'll see that website is selected, and yours probably wouldn't be. Yours is very likely to be book. Whatever setting you leave this on, the last time you apply, it will stay set in the drop-down menu. So the last citation that I inserted was for a website. So I need to switch it back to book. We actually are going to insert a citation for a book, and so you don't need to change yours at all. We're going to type height, Height, comma, space, and then Ryan. So it's going to be Ryan Height, but we're going to do it last name first, and we're going to separate the surname from the forename by a comma. So height, comma, space, Ryan. This is to conform to MLA style formatting. The book is entitled New Trends in Medicine, like that. It was published in 2021. It was published in New York. The publisher is a company called Basic Books. Can't type it all today. And the medium is a field that MacBook users won't have, but Windows users will. So I'm just going to put print. If it wasn't a print book and instead it was an ebook, you would put something like digital or electronic. You could put ebook in there, something that makes it obvious that it's not a physical print book. And then we're going to click OK. The citation and bibliography tool in Word is going to take the information from these fields, and in the back end of Excel, and we won't see it happen right now, it's going to create a properly formatted citation listing for a bibliography, and that information is going to be kept in the manage sources tool for when you need it, for when you need to insert your bibliography. What's going to be inserted now, where my insertion point is at the end of the word time, following the first paragraph, is an in-text citation field, which looks like this. So if you hover over it, you'll see it highlights the whole thing. This is an electronically created field for a citation. So it puts the last name in, which is the in-text citation format for MLA book sources. And then perhaps we could include the page number. And so whatever is being referred to here in this book was taken from page 6 in that book. And so if you click on the field, you'll see that on the right hand side it gives you the option for a drop down menu. The first option in that menu is edit citation. If you click to edit the citation, it lets you specify which page or pages in the book you're referring to. We are going to say it was page 6 in that particular book. So we're just going to say it was just page 6. We'll click OK. The citation field then, our in-text citation, gets updated, and it now displays height 6. So I know that that's a book, and I know that it's referring to page 6 in a book. That's our first citation. We're going to navigate to page 2 and insert our second and then last citation. On page 2, we're going to position the insertion point at the end of the first paragraph to the right of the word goals, again, before the period. So this is the top of page 2. You can see my page 2 page number field in the top right-hand corner here in our header. This paragraph ends with the word goals, which is where we want our insertion point to be, between the S and the period, so inside the sentence before it ends. Then we're going to go back to the References tab, and we're going to insert another citation. When I click this drop-down menu, though, you'll see that the citation that we just created for the book is now available to you as a little thumbnail, so that you could reuse it. You could use it multiple times in the same document. You could refer, then you can customize them all separately to refer to different page numbers. We're not referring to a book, and even if we were, we wouldn't be referring to this book right now. So we're going to select Add New Source, and we're going to change the type of source in the Create Source dialog box to website. And then for the author, we're going to say it's actually IMS Research. The name of the web page isn't the URL. The name of the web page is whatever the title of the document or article on that web page is. And so this is going to be IMS Research press release, like that. IMS Research press release. It was posted to that page in August. It was the 8th of August, 2021. So this gives you day, month, and year fields. If you don't have the information, you don't include it. You could either leave these blank or you could put not applicable in. And then it was accessed by the writer, whoever's actually producing this report, in 2022 on the 12th of February. So again, like if you're actually going to be writing documents like this, if it's going to be your job, keep notes and just make sure you know what day you access that information. Doesn't seem important, but for some fields and in some industries, it is. And then the medium is web, which is almost redundant because we're citing a website, but whatever. These are our fields populated for the website. IMS Research, IMS Research press release. Page was uploaded. That press release was uploaded on the 8th of August 2021, and then the writer found that press release and decided that some of that information was going to be useful for the study that they were, or the report that they were writing. And that was on the 12th of February 2022. We'll click OK. It's going to insert another in-text citation. Obviously, the author was listed as IMS Research, and so it's just included the word research. We're not going to customize this field. We're going to leave it alone. And so we'll continue. So now we've got 2 footnotes and 2 citations, which means we're almost done. So it wants us to go to the end of the document. So if I do Control plus End, END, it takes my insertion point to right here. It's the last selectable position in this document. And I'm going to insert a page break by using Control plus Enter. You could always go to the Layout tab, Page Setup, Group, Breaks, and then Page if you're using the ribbon. So we've inserted a page break, and on this page, we're going to change the indentation. So right now, you can see that because this is the start of a new paragraph, I've got my 1-inch page margin, which is right about here, and then I've got an additional indentation set, half-inch and first line indentation, and so I'm going to turn that off after the page break. So at the top of page 4, with the cursor flashing on the first line, we're going to go home. We're going to go into paragraph, and we're just going to turn that first line indentation off in the special group and click OK. So then it resets my insertion point to the left margin. We're going to type works cited, and we're going to hit enter. And then we're going to insert the bibliography. So we're going to go to the References tab. We're going to come to the Citations and Bibliography group, and we're just going to click the insert bibliography option at the bottom of that list. You could pick one of the 3 presets. They all format identically, so you can see that these are going to build the same style of bibliography, irrespective of which one you pick. The only difference is what title is inserted along with the content, and we've just typed a title. We've just typed works cited, so I don't want to type a title and then insert one of these presets that will bring its own title with it, because then I'm going to have to delete one of the titles. So instead, I'm just going to insert the content of the bibliography so that we've got our own title here. And you can see that the bibliography is inserted like this. I'm going to center our title, work cited, on that page. Doesn't ask us to format the text, so I'm going to leave it alone. What we are going to do, though, is it says to select both newly inserted references on page 4. I'm going to do this from the margin by selecting like this. See, I think that would be selected, but I'm actually going to select all 4 of those lines. We could delete this paragraph out, but I'm just going to select across that entire selection. There's nothing else going at the end of this document, so it won't affect anything. And we're going to change the line spacing to 2 by using multiple again, but we could just make it double. And we're going to change the after spacing to 0. We're going to go back into the paragraph dialog box. We're going to say the after spacing, paragraph spacing after is set to 0. It's not really going to make a big difference here. And the line spacing, I'm just going to set to double, because that's the same as multiple and 2. Doesn't ask us to do anything else. We'll click OK. So then it looks like this. All right. So the only other thing we need to do is we inserted purposefully as part of the instructions, just so that we could use it as an example. The author's last name for the book that we entered as height, we were given incorrectly in the instructions. The actual name should be higher. So if you ever make a mistake with a citation, you can come back to the References tab, and in the Citations and Bibliography group, you can step into Manage Sources, and you can see I've done this a whole bunch of times. You can step into the Manage Sources menu, and you can make an adjustment. So you can see these have all been corrected. These are the ones that I've done before. And it was corrected to higher. So the instructions then go on at the end to let you know that his last name isn't Ryan. His name isn't Ryan Height. His last name is actually Higher. So we need to edit it. When we open up this dialog box, the source manager, you've got 2 lists. You've got a master list on the left-hand side, and you've got a current list. The master list is all the references saved in this Word installation. The current list are the 2 references that have been used in the current document that you're working on, and we need to update Ryan's last name to correct it. So you can see that in the master list on the left-hand side, it's already got it selected. It wouldn't know, so you would have to make the selection if it didn't pick the correct one. And you can see that the spelling is incorrect. So I'm going to click Edit, which takes me back to the source entry fields, where we actually populated these fields with his data. And I'm going to correct the last name in the author field. So I'm going to make this higher instead of height. And I'm going to click OK. When I do that, Word gives me a warning message, and it says that this source exists in the master list in the document. as well as the current list? Do you want to update both lists with these changes? And the answer is yes. I don't want to keep an incorrect spelling either in my copy of Word or within the document itself. So the only sensible answer for me here is yes, I want to update it. When I click yes, you'll see that it updates it in the current list and the master list at the same time. And then if I close the source manager dialog box, now that I've made that change, you'll see the citation, the in-text citation field was updated to the correct spelling. What it doesn't do, unfortunately, is update the spelling in the bibliography. So where the bibliography was entered on page 4, it still shows the incorrect spelling. In order to correct the bibliography spelling, I have to come to the last page and click within the bibliography. And it doesn't matter whether it highlights all of it or part of it. It really doesn't matter. You can right click and you can ask the field to update. When it updates the field, you'll see that it's actually done two things. One, it's updated the correct spelling. So it's pulled it from our master list that we've just edited, that we just made an amendment to. And it also undid the formatting change that we made before we went to correct the spelling for that citation. We set 0 after spacing and double spacing for these elements. So if you wanted them to actually apply to these elements, then we need to go and redo them. When you click update, it's going to reapply whatever format is governing this piece. So this is going to be bibliography styles. Now we could go and modify the style that's applied to a bibliography if we had multiple bibliographies, or if you were going to be continually updating the bibliography, maybe that would be something that we would go and do. But it's easy enough for us to just step back in here and say no after spacing and double line spacing like that, just to put that formatting back. And that's it. That's our document. So we should have something that looks fairly close to the answer key. So that's my document on the left. This is the answer key. If we set them both to, what is it, 120? They should look, I updated. They should look nigh identical. Let's turn show hide off here as well, so that we can see. The first page looks identical. Second page looks identical. That's pretty good. Third page, we don't format at all. And then in the answer key, this format was not set back. So when it was updated to correct the spelling of Ryan's last name for the book citation, it reverted to the format that was applied when the bibliography was actually inserted. And we inserted the bibliography and then selected this content and went to increase the line spacing. And so that's not applied in the answer key. So I'm going to say that we did a pretty good job with it. All right, that's this file. Citations, footnotes, page breaks, and modifying styles. I'm going to stop recording.